BBC. Dark Dove back with you again, and I'm going to show you a pretty big vinyl charity shop haul which I made. I'm sure for those of you who may not be aware, charity shops are basically what we call goodwill shops or thrift shops here. There's one which I call to on a regular basis, and I've made a lot of scores there in the past, but last week I called there and they had some stuff out, they had some new vinyl out, so on that occasion I picked up 3 items. One is this 12-inch single by a band called Bourgie, a Scottish post-punk band formed by Paul Quinn, who was part of that initial Scottish post-punk thing in the early 80s. He collaborated with Orange Juice and Edward Collins. Show you the label there. Yeah, this is pretty good. The B-side on this is excellent. The B-side, Change of Attitude, is kind of very geez, the Mary Chains type kind of guitar feedback kind of thing. This came out in '84, by the way. Nice artwork too as well. Other thing I picked up, this, which I thought looked interesting, didn't know much about it. Richard T, and this album is called One. So this is kind of nice lineup here. Eric Gale, Chuck Rainey, Rolf MacDonald. So this is jazz funk, late 70s. Sorry, it's actually called Stroke, and it's not called One. Sorry, it's called Stroke. That's the name of the album. Yeah, so yeah, kind of reminiscent of Bob James. You know, not terribly nice background music. You know, nothing amazing, but still a pretty nice find. Now the next find is kind of reminiscent of a lot of the rest of the stuff I'm going to be showing you. This I grabbed largely because of its cover art. A modern classical album by a composer who I wasn't aware of before, Jolie Braga Santos, who was Portuguese. This is on a label called Imavox, which is a Portuguese label, specialising in 20th century Portuguese composers. So yeah, this is pretty good. It's kind of very kind of movie soundtrack kind of a feel to it. Now, as I'll go on, I'll explain further. I came back a couple of days later and I just inquired about if they'd any more vinyl, and the guy in there, a very nice fellow who I've dealt with before, he said, yes, we have about 150 albums from the same donation upstairs, and would you like to go up and have a look at them? And I said, yes please. So I went upstairs into the kind of dusty storeroom, and mountains and mountains of vinyl awaited me, so I started digging, and what I'm going to show you is what I got from that dig. Now just bear in mind, a lot of what I'm going to show is classical, but there's other stuff as well. This is a band called King of the Slums, and this album is called Dandelion. This is a Manchester band from the 80s, early 90s. This came out in '89. Wasn't really aware of this group beforehand, but this is pretty good. This is there's a lot of kind of electric violin driving a lot of the songs on this, which is kind of unusual. It's kind of reminiscent of the Levelers or a kind of agit-prop kind of indie rock. But yeah, so excuse me. So pretty interesting find there. What else? Now Ben Costello, I did grab a couple of items for you. Now I don't intend to be showing this video for quite a few weeks yet, so by the time I show it, I will have handed these to you, so I might as well just show them anyway. I know you're a big hip hop fan, so this is on the Alternative Tentacles label, set up by Jello Biafra of Dead Kennedys. So this is a hip hop 12-inch, Menace to Society and My Time to Climb by Chill EB. And I know you'll like this, Ben. This is right up your street. The other item I got, which I told you about, Ben, my eye was drawn to this rather interesting artwork featuring this scantily clad young woman on the cover, and you also get a rear shot as well. This features quite a few bands. There's a lot of Irish bands features on this, plus a few international. This is actually a charity album for an AIDS charity, which came out in the early noughties. And looking it up, it appears to be kind of rare. It was limited to 1,000 copies. Now it's actually a double. It's a double LP. So there's 2 vinyl albums, and also 2 CDs. And Ben, I know you're a fan of quite a few of the bands featured here, like the Frames, Glenn Hansard, Damien Rice, etc. So I knew this would be up your street. So hopefully you'll have this in your hands by the time I throw up this video. So yeah. So moving on. Staying with rather tasteful female nudity, presenting the Larry Page Orchestra, and this is basically kind of a easy listening album, but I mean, how could I possibly leave it behind with that artwork? No, I couldn't. So grab this. Yeah, Larry Page. This came out in the late '60s, '69 or thereabouts. So when it was all the rage to feature mindless sax and senseless violins. Yeah, it's I had to listen to it. It's it's kind of cheesy, easy listening, but kind of like Jeff Love and the Orchestra kind of thing. This is another kind of a weird one. How to Lose Weight. That might come in handy. This is on a series called Medidisc, and these are an Irish series of albums which came out in the early '70s. I've seen them around. They're kind of collectible. This was the cheapest item, by the way. This only cost me 20 cents. So I thought, hell, I just, it's worth grabbing. So just kind of an oddity item, you know. Whoop. Okay, I'll just, excuse me. very, very interesting thing that caught my eye as I was rummaging through all these piles of vinyl was this. Now this is a soundtrack album which accompanied the 1950s version of Julius Caesar, which starred none other than Marlon Brando there, plus oh fuck, what was his name again? British actor. Their names are on the back here. John Gielgud. This is, so the movie came out in, I think, in 1953 or thereabouts. This I thought at first that this was actually a 78, but it's because it's very, very heavy. But no, it is actually vinyl. But it's not it's not a music soundtrack. It's actually a soundtrack of dialogue from the movie. So there's a narrator, and then there's lines of dialogue from this version of Shakespeare's Julius Caesar. So yeah, so I've certainly never seen this around, or I don't know how rare it is or collectible it is, but I played it and it plays fine. Like, there's a little bit of crackle in places, but for the most part it plays perfectly fine. So so pretty unusual find there. Now, two other very interesting things which I picked up are, now, for those of you, a lot of you are aware that albums of library music can be very collectible. Derek has shown a few. Don't generally tend to come across them an awful lot because they are pretty sought after. First one is this is put out by a firm called Boosey and Hawkes, who were one of the most prolific library music providers. So library music would basically, these were not produced for sale. These were as library music, as the name implies. They were basically for rental from libraries for television and film companies to use as they'd be used as incidental music. This one is what's called pastoral, as it implies. It is kind of a pastoral, kind of light classical. There's actually one track here. Where is it? Harvest to Supper, which I recognised straight away when I played it. It was actually used as the incidental music in a long-running Irish radio soap opera, which ran in the 80s. Ben, you might remember it, Harbour Hotel. So so now I know where they found that theme music. So love that cover as well, by the way. But going on Discogs, they pretty much all seem to have this cover, Boosey and Hawkes library records. But yeah, nice find. And another library music record, and this is on Conroy. Conroy, another very prolific the library music company. This, as with the other one, this is from the early 70s. Most of the music on this seems to be kind of cowboy and western related, so it would have been like if there was a TV or film, I don't know, something to do with cowboys. They may have used music from this. Now they were a British company, so I don't know what, maybe, you know, what British TV companies would be making stuff about cowboys, maybe a documentary about the Wild West or something, but that's what a lot of these musical pieces relate to. So Conroy label, and as they weren't produced for general consumption, for sale to the general public, the packaging did tend to be kind of basic. Again, Conroy, a lot of their albums just have that kind of basic packaging as well, all with the same cover. Okay, now pretty much everything else I'm going to show from now on is classical, so if you want to switch off at this point, feel free, but I will try and get through them pretty quickly. Now, these all seem to have come from a library, from the music department of a library, so a lot of them have this very annoying sticker. It's a laminated barcode sticker, and these are very, very difficult to remove. Okay, so I'll talk about the record first. So it's William Walton, Facade and Facade 2, featuring Katy Barbarian. I've covered her before. She was married to Luciano Berio, but again, a lot of record labels which I'd never come across before. A lot of them seem to be academic labels. I think whoever donated this collection may have been involved may have worked in a university in town, I think, or had something to do with the study of music, because an awful lot of these are like 20th century classical, and a lot of them are composers or labels that I'm not hugely familiar with. But William Walton, I'm familiar with him. But anyway, back to this horrible sticker. A lot of them have this. In a couple of instances, I've managed to remove them where the cover is laminated. But in the case of this one, there's no point in trying to remove it because I don't even ruin the cover. Okay. Pure Gint by Grieg. Lovely cover. And this is on the H&V Nipper label with Nipper the dog, probably from the early 60s, I'd imagine. Very nice condition. Now there's a cover for you. Nice bit of halibut. And another composer I'd never heard of, Ottmar Schoeck, who I think maybe German or Austrian, I'm not 100% sure. I haven't listened to this yet, but it's a kind of modern opera, something to do with a fisherman, I think, which indicate, is the reason why they have a fish on the cover. But a lot of these I grabbed them because they had really interesting artwork as well. I'll try and get through them fairly fast. So beautiful artwork there. This is on the Unicorn label, which is it's a very interesting classical label. Frank Martin, again, was not familiar with this composer. Swiss composer, 20th century. Love that artwork there as well. That looks like something by Albert Dürer, I think. Stravinsky, always grab Stravinsky when I see him. I did manage to remove the sticker from this album cover, so I mean, it was they do mar the covers on quite a few of these, so glad to get rid of it on this one. But this is Stravinsky plus this This guy here, Distler, who's a little known German composer. Another great cover, Prokofiev, love that artwork. And I will move through these fairly quickly because there's a lot to get through. Stravinsky again, and the Decca Eclipse label, some Czech Baroque on the Supraphon label, Japanese composer, again whom I'd never heard of, Morai, but this is a great label, very saraband, always worth grabbing, and again great cover there of a kind of a griffin or something. Organ music, modern organ music. This is Canadian. This is by the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. Released this. Mostly modern pieces featuring this guy Gerald Wheeler. Alexander Zemlinsky, who I believe was, I think it was Austrian, I'm not 100% sure, but now this is really nice, this one. This is on the Das.Also work label, which is specializes in early and Baroque music. This is Marine Marais, early 18th century French Baroque composer. This is a very nice find. Another composer who I know absolutely nothing about, Swedish, Ture Rangstrom, Symphony No. 1, and this is in relation to August Strindberg, that Swedish playwright. More Czech music, Czech Baroque music, again on the Supraphon label. And finally, I think is that is, yeah, finally, kind of an unusual find, Chinese classical by this guy, Sheng Li Hong, and this is a Hong Kong based label, Ocean Symphony, released in the early 80s. Interesting find. Haven't listened to this one yet, but again, lovely artwork. A lot of these have really fantastic artwork. So that's it, that's everything. I hope it didn't bore you too much, but some very interesting finds in there, I'm sure. Some unusual stuff, and I'll be trying this. It's the 1st of December, but I'll probably wait a couple of weeks to throw this up. So until then, hope you all have a very nice Christmas, because it will be probably close to Christmas when this comes up. So all the best.